Told your brother when he left town that you'd be happy and you keep it down. Now there's some things he shouldn't know. When the band drops a beat, don't be afraid to move your feet. It's easier to fall in love when you dance. You believe what you want to believe, that love is easy and the rest is free. And you're out looking for a like-minded someone. Every night at a bar stool stands those neon lights that put you in a trance. Tonight's the night you'll fall in love. When the band drops a beat, don't be afraid to move your feet. It's easier to fall in love when you dance. When the band drops a beat, don't be afraid to move your feet. It's easier to fall in love when you dance. When you dance. When you dance. When you dance.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much for coming in.
Yeah, man.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us.
So let's before we get into the Tomahawks, Nick, how did you get into playing music growing up?
Man, I don't know. I didn't start playing music or guitar or anything until I got into college, really. I was about a freshman in college when I bought my first guitar. But my dad had a really extensive record collection, so I was into music. I was always a music fan. You know, like one of the best things he ever taught me, I think, was how to work the turntable as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and able to listen to his expansive record collection. But, you know.
What kind of music was in that record collection?
Oh, man, it was awesome. It is awesome. He is still like a music fan and a music lover. There's a lot of Beatles, a lot of Stones. And I mean, some of my favorite records that I would pull out of there as a kid growing up was T-Rex the Slider. Loved that record. Rubber Soul by the Beatles. Love that. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere by Neil Young was awesome. Harvest, I played that one a lot. I'm trying to think.
Well,
I don't know. There was a lot of stuff.
I think a lot of those classic albums that you just named, they really come through in the Tomahawks music. Is that something that you go for when you're recording these songs?
I mean, to be honest, I don't listen to much else other than that. Like, that's just the music that I listen to. Mm-hmm. I don't listen to any, like, much modern stuff. I have a hard time finding bands that I get into in like the modern age, and so I mean, I might be stuck in time, sort of a little bit. So I mean, you know, that influence is definitely bound to come across because that's like the stuff that I immerse myself into as a listener, you know.
Okay, so now to the Tomahawks. How did you get this group of guys together?
Sort of a long story, but no, these dudes are just people that I played music with for a long time. Me and Jeff Crawford played in a band called Roman Candle for years, and through that avenue we hooked up with James, and me and James and Jeff have kind of been friends for a long time. Me and James are roommates now, and we live across the street from Jeff, so it's a pretty tight-knit group. And Cameron and Mark came out and recorded at a studio that we all run together, and that's sort of how I met those dudes. And Charles plays in like 100 million bands, and he's just kind of like a general, like, the dude. And so, like, as soon as I saw him playing music, I was like, man,
I think we've had Charles in here more than anyone else.
I need that guy. I need that guy in my band now. So that's kind of how it all came together, I guess.
So when you guys started talking about Tomahawks or just jamming together before it really even became Tomahawks, did you have an idea in the direction that you wanted to take the band?
Man, it's interesting. The Tomahawks sort of started out with my goal, or like, I mean, it was me and Jeff mostly, and our plan was to sort of have an outlet for music that we were writing while we were basically being sidemen in these other bands. We were playing in Roman Candle and Max Indian at the time, and like those were, you know, like there were strong writing presences in those bands, but you know, we were writing songs at the same time and sort of wanted an outlet and a place to put those things. And so the Tomahawks sort of started under that idea that this would be a place for kind of like sideman and backing musicians to like bring songs and sort of play them and have a place to put those songs. But then it just sort of developed into this thing that I sort of had this grouping of songs that could work really well as a record. So we just kind of decided to work on those specifically, and Jeff was involved in a bunch of projects at the time and sort of working on a solo record that we're still going to do. We're doing that record, man, because it rules. But sort of the Tomahawks sort of became a collection of songs that I had written out of like songs that had a similar sound, had a similar feel to them, and could coexist together. That's sort of like why the band sort of became what it is now, I guess.
Now, the album you're referring to is Cut Loose, right?
Yeah, it's called Cut Loose.
It came out last month, correct?
Yep, it came out in mid-October.
Now, before that, you had an EP that was released in 2009, is that right?
Yeah, it was April of 2009. It was called Like a Horse on a Beach.
How did you guys grow as a band from that EP to Cut Loose?
I'm going to air a little bit of dirty laundry here, but the EP was sort of just like a lot of trash. There's a lot of stuff that we had sort of like sitting around, and just things that like needed to like, that like it was immediate things that we had recorded that we could say, let's group these things together and put a record out and just have a start. Just, you know, like get started. So trash isn't really the right word, but just like groupings of things that could coexist together and be considered an EP, you know what I mean? Before we even started working on other stuff, you know what I mean? Even still, this record, Cut Loose, is a lot of residual. It's stuff that like has existed. It's a lot of trash. It's a lot of trash. It's a lot of songs that have existed for a long time that like just never really had the time to surface, you know what I mean?
Loose ends. Garbage rock.
Exactly, garbage rock. Awesome, yeah, totally.
Is there a significance behind the name of the album, Cut Loose?
Kind of. Cut Loose is a line in a song called, I say the phrase cut loose in the song on the record called Reason and Rhyme. And I was looking for a title for the record for a really long time, and I was coming up with all these like crap titles. They were awful, just dumb. Greatest Hits was one, which was hilarious. The Tomahawks Greatest Hits, Volume 1. But no, Cut Loose was that song, Reason and Rhyme, I wrote that like at sort of like a really shifting point in my life where it really embraced the idea of cutting loose, like setting free, like everything. Like I had all these preconceived ideas of life in like the 20s, like the mid 20s, and like what it should become. And I was really having to just like cut loose from those preconceived notions and like become like a freer person, like a being that wasn't confined by like what my ideals were, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it involved a lot of like really serious bad news stuff, but like it was like a sort of a summary that had like a silver lining, you know what I mean? Because once you cut loose, you're free, sort of, so to speak.
Now, pretty much everyone in this band, I think, has been or is in 2 or 3 other bands other than Tomahawks. How difficult is it for you to take Tomahawks on the road?
Oh man, it's a total pain in the rear. But I love it. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. These are like the dudes. I love these dudes to the max. And like honestly, touring is a really difficult thing right now, and just in general, I think for bands, like it's really hard to get out on the road and to like spend a lot of money and just drive around and do that thing and play to like, you know, clubs and stuff. And I think, you know, the idea is probably for me is to like write more songs and make better records and move forward in that way, as opposed to like really trying to grind it out. If somebody wants to put us on the road, freaking front our gas money and like give us a van, talk to me. Call me up on the phone, 919-475-3629. Give me a ring. We'll do this thing. But I didn't mean to rhyme that. That was awesome.
So what's next for you guys? Are you guys going to get back in the studio again? Are you going to try to play some dates?
I've written, I'm getting close to halfway to a new record, I think. So moving forward, we're going to try and track a lot of that stuff coming up in probably winter or early spring, I think, and kind of move on from there, move forward.
Sweet. Well, let's hear some more tunes.
Cool. Thanks, Jake.
sun and the spoon in your mouth was a silver one. Fun for you was more than you could find in a churchyard. The sun is low on the western hills where you got your heart broken in a truck by Phil. The fool's fault, but you're too young to tell when it's magic. Hey, your sunrise is coming up. Oh, your sunrise is coming up. Oh, your sunrise is coming. Now you're out in your penniless, not even enough to buy a dime-so dress to impress the next boy that might hit your fancy. Hey, your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming. And how many times must a young heart break like a fistful of rocks being thrown in the lake? Do you take the time to go out and retreat? Your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming. Hey, your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming up. Oh, your sunrise coming. Sunlight cast, shadows pass, the winter limbs of the trees, giving me a perfect point of view, dear, to watch you walk away from me. I hummed a song all winter long. It was better than singing the blues. Spring started coming on, way too strong. I just had to cut it loose. Make clear to me, my dear, with me you wanted nothing to do. I took seen my share of dark days, dear. My skies are turning blue. To me, my dear, with me knowing nothing to do. I took a little time, found a reason and a rise. Got myself over myself over you. Oh, darling, since you left and nothing's changed. Oh, darling, since you left and nothing's changed. That bird still sits outside the door, softly singing its same sweet refrain. The one you wake up to in the morning. Though you can't hear it, I want you to know it still sings that song. Curtains blowing cold by the kitchen sink. Your laundry still sits on the floor. I take the bus into town just to think and meet my friends down at the bar. Though you can't hear it, the jukebox plays out your favorite song.